Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to The Book Refuge. And today we have 11 books to talk about. I'm so excited. First, there is just a couple things to address, and then we'll dive right in to the books that I read because we have quite the ups and downs this week to go through. So first off, thanks for all the good feedback about my new intro. I just decided I wanted to pop one in there, so I used my editing software on my phone to see what I could come up with, and I came up with this cute little one. So it's definitely one that's easily editable and changeable, so maybe I'll change it up depending on themes, but for right now, it's enough that we popped it in there. I just think it makes me feel a little more official after 5 years of doing this to have kind of a little intro. And then instead of adding a name card, it will just have been in there. So anyway, that's just a little behind the scenes of what I'm doing. Also, I finished A Little Dragon last night and I'm showing him off. There is a question card over on my Instagram right now to decide what his name is. Definitely some people wanted me to go the way of Fourth Wing and like name him Tairn or something like that. But I think he's a little bit too cute and sweet to be called that. So I don't know if that question card will still be up by the time all of you are seeing it. But if not, down below, tell me, what do you think we should name this cute little dragon that I did? He's just adorable. You know, I love my cross stitching and my projects and I just love it. Also, we had some crazy changes with my Patreon happen in the last week and they've already been like a whirlwind. So 3 months ago, I started a new tier on my Patreon just to kind of help boost things out and change it around and also to give me some fun things to do. And so I added this quarterly like favorites box, which is one that, as the name describes, people only get a box from me every quarter, but they pay monthly for it. So so that the accumulative amount you pay monthly helps me put the box together, as well as for other things too. You know, I mean, I still gotta buy groceries and all that stuff. And so after doing the first quarterly box, which got sent out and everyone's starting to get them, of course, I think everyone except my international members got theirs. I'm very much praying they get safely there. Sending stuff internationally is oh so stressful on both ends, both for the person sending it and for the people receiving it, right? But anyway, I opened 5 new spots and they were gone immediately, which is so kind. Thank you guys so much. I don't know that I will really be able to go past 15 with those because each of those boxes is personalized. And granted, I do have 3 months to do them, so that helps, but it's just like they're a lot of work and they're kind of labor intensive to do. But if people ever move or change around from those, definitely keep your eye on it. But also, you know, with the changes too, we had 3 new members to the Patreon. Oh, we're getting so close to what my, like, I hate saying a final goal because of course I want it to grow beyond what any goals are. You know, the more that I'm able to make, the better, you know, I'll be able to stay stable at doing this and actually start paying off some debt and stuff like that. But what my like final goal to be like sustainable without any help, we're getting so close to it. And I just can't believe that after a year, which it has officially been a year, like May 1st is when I launched this Patreon last year, which is crazy. We have 3 new people. So I want to welcome Amy M, which is a beautiful name, by the way. Giovanna, who was kind enough to tell me how to pronounce her name. Giovanna, thank you so much. I love your name, by the way. It's beautiful. And then Jenny Clark, who I think I actually might have welcomed Jenny last week, but I hadn't got her in the credits yet. Either way, welcome to all 3 of you. Thanks so much for joining and supporting Patreon here. I hope that you love it. I just put up the exclusive book review, just dropped today, and coming Monday or Tuesday will be the next exclusive vlog, which you guys will all get to see, which is great. Just to give you guys a hint, I do my vlogs mostly only for Patreon now. There are a few special occasions, like there's one coming up we're going to talk about in this video because I read some books for it, that I do a vlog. And in these vlogs, I talk about a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Like in the one that's coming out, You get to see me working on my cross-stitch projects, my sewing projects, hearing my thoughts behind the scenes of how my channel's going, how my mental health is going. And then, yeah, and it's been really great. Also in this upcoming episode, we talk about Amazon affiliate links. Do they really help creators what they do? If you guys don't know who are watching this, every book that I talk about in this video, I have an affiliate link for down below, as well as my like Amazon storefront is there. And that's something that a lot of creators are able to utilize. And in this video, I talk about, am I actually making anything off of it? Is it worth your time to use these links and stuff like that? Spoiler alert, it does help me. And Amazon finally has made it a bit easier to track that, to actually see your impact through those, which is really great because it does show that I'm not just wasting my time posting all of those links down there, which, by the way, never feel any pressure to use them. But the thing I always say to my patrons is that if you're already going to buy these books, if I've made you interested in them and you want to try it, and then you use one of these links and you're going to buy the book anyway, it helps out. Whether you're going to get the ebook or a physical book, it's all helpful for me. So, okay, enough of an intro. We spent too long. Let's go ahead and dive into these books because we read some anticipated books and some that ended up being very interesting. And I do have coffee this morning. My new favorite drink at Caribou is a caramel espresso shaker. I love how smooth it tastes. And then I get a shot of raspberry in here. It's so good. Okay, as always, my notes are down here. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. And let's go ahead. So the first book I finished last Sunday was Mother's Day In by Leisha Co. I did end up skipping over one of these. They're all complete standalones. This one is Mother's Day. It's a single mom. There is this kind of like resort or bed and breakfast that is for women basically to go to. And this woman has kind of had a crush on Theo, who is the owner's son. He also helps out there. And he has had a crush on her as well. And this Mother's Day, some stuff is actually happening between them. So there's really not more to say than that because these are always very like heavily themed to what it is, but this is an older woman romance. This is a younger man who is obsessed. He's also very sweet with her little girl. He loves the little girl, you know, honestly, before he even has a thing for the mom. I think he thinks the little girl is so sweet. And so this one, yeah, so a single parent, older woman, also had some like breeding kink. It has a happy ending massage happening here, which is really fun. And as well as the hero is pierced, which we approve. I just made a video about that, by the way, if you missed it. It had to be named very carefully because when I say like pierced hero or anything, for some reason YouTube doesn't like that and flagged it. So I have to say hero with hardware because that could be, you know, a hero with hardware could be, I guess, like a cyborg or something. I don't know, but it is pierced dicks, just so you know, if you look up that video. I'll have it linked so you can watch it. But Theo is someone we definitely add to the list. So this was perfectly delightful. It's only about 120 pages. I find these really fun. I love seeing whatever kinks that Lee puts into these. And I do actually want to read the one that I missed. I've read all the other ones. I've just missed the Valentine's Day one just because there was a lot of stuff going on around Valentine's Day for me, so I didn't get to it, but I definitely want to go back to it. So I gave that one 4 stars and it has a 3 on my spice scale. Next, I'm going to be kind of annoying and say this about a couple things because I read The Coven by Harper L. Woods, and I have a whole vlog coming about this. So remember when I just mentioned there's a vlog? I don't usually do vlogs for the channel. There's maybe like one a month I've been doing lately that's on the main channel. But I did a collab with Honest Fiction, and our video is coming out on the 24th. I'll show you the cover of it because I'm pretty proud of this. So I actually don't want to spoil any of my thoughts about this. I want to make you watch that video. I know, usually go more in depth about everything. I will tell you for this one, my rating is a 3, but I will probably be continuing the series. So I gave it a 3. It was a 2 on the spice scale. This does have some serious trigger warnings, including an underage heroine, which I think is an issue for like a lot of people, because in my opinion, and I talk about this in depth in the review, you'll see there wasn't a reason for her to be underage, except the author was like, the characters awaken at a certain age. And I was like, yeah, but you could have had them awaken at 18, because you know that for us who are mostly adult women who will be reading this book, we kind of want the character to be older. I know it's something that's in our heads, but when I'm reading and it's a 17-year-old, like, my Twilight days are over, okay? Like, I'm still inspired by things that remind me of Twilight, but also in Twilight there isn't explicit sex. Wow, I just went down a different rabbit hole for this. But it's not that I'm like, it's not that I have issues with there being an age gap because of like a vampire or an immortal being. I don't. But also now that I'm 30, when the person is 17, I'm like, yeah, but she could have been 18, 19, 20. Does it really matter? I don't know, but it does in my head. So that's a personal thing. Anyway, this vlog will be coming on Wednesday. It's coming on Wednesday. And yeah, I have some thoughts about that. Then I read Boomslang by Naomi Lucas. Yes, let's awe of this cover. Look at how adorable these two are, okay? And this is book 5 in the Naga Brides. There's only one a year that comes out in this series. And you know what? That annoys me, but I also think it's a good move because Naomi Lucas has some other series as well. But the thing with them only coming once a month is I'm not burned out. Something for me that tends to happen with an alien romance, especially if I really like, the special peen or I really like the dynamic, is that, when those books come out like one a month, bam, 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 they're not as like impactful, right? Like I read them all. There was a really fun time and then they all kind of merge together into one like nebulous thing. And these being paced kind of like one a year, I think that there's space for them to all feel very different and there's more space for them to be distinct. So I just want to put that out there. And I partially say that because the next one, which is going to be Cottonmouth, doesn't come out. The date she has listed is a full year from now in 2024. And I'm always like, oh my God, that's so long. Because she sets these books up so well. Like, I'm ready for Cottonmouth's book. Like, I want it. But sometimes there's something for delayed gratification. There is. And so the story in this book is between, I had to write them down because the names of these men are difficult to remember. So this is between, like we said, the Boomslang, Azote. It's A-Z-S-O-T-E, Azote, maybe it's Azote, I don't know, and Laura. Now, what's so cool about this is Laura is a doctor. I believe we met her at the end of the last one, where she is a doctor who's like working for, but she's kind of being forced to work for this like entity that is trying to like take over this planet, this human entity. And she ends up having, I think, crashed down on Earth or gets there or something. And Azote, who has made a mistake before when he tried to take one of the human women to make her his own. And so in his head this time, he's like, no, I'm not going to take a woman. I'm going to present myself to her, make myself an appealing option, and like prove that I should be her mate. Because he doesn't want to steal her and then lose her forever. Because that's what he felt happened last time. Really, these women are kind of terrified of the men no matter what. Now, Dr. Laura has heard some about these Naga men from other women who have been mated with them and what she's heard before. And so she's very wary of being mated to one of them, because she has plans for her life and she has things that she needs to do. And she can't get stuck on this planet with one of these Nagas. But she also doesn't know what to make of Azote because she finds him pretty endearing pretty quickly. He's very sweet. Like, look at this cover. This is him. He's so precious. There's no other word. He's so precious. She actually thinks that he's like this like young virgin Naga, which all of the Nagas are virgins because there aren't enough females to go around, but he's definitely not young. He's much older than her. But he is still, he's a virgin and she is premenopausal. So that's why I'm getting to this. Dr. Laura, I didn't see her name specifically stated or numbered, but she's saying that like she's very close to menopause. She's surprised she's not in it. She also has, been on a strong form of birth control like her whole life. So she's like, I'm not a good mate for them because I can't have babies. I'm past that point. And that is kind of the purpose of the Nagas at this point, is their breeding instinct is supposed to pair them with a mate so that they can have babies. And so I was very interested to see how that was going to be handled in here. And of course it was handled perfectly. And Azote is like, to me, it's more important to have a mate to love. Like, having young is very dangerous and scary in this time. And he's like, you're what's important to me. And so I loved how that was handled. Like, there is some like sadness about, so Laura, she does have a daughter, but it was not a daughter that she was able to gave birth to herself. I'm trying not to give stuff away, but she didn't physically get to give birth to this daughter, and she's been kept away from her, and this daughter's been used as kind of a bargaining chip by some people. So she also really like missed out on that stuff. So anyway, that's maybe enough to say about this one. If you're into the series, which starts with Viper, like, you're gonna read this book. It was beautiful. Like I said, I really loved it. I loved how precious and kind he was with her, and he's trying to convince her to stay, but he's definitely less forceful than some of the other Naga, which, I mean, I like the forceful ones, but I also like that he has lost someone before, and so he's like, okay, I'm never going to pressure her into anything. And so I love that. It is still, like, these series are definitely very comforting to me, but it doesn't, you know, it's not like a knock me out of the park book either. So this one was a 4-star. It's a 3 on the Spice scale. And I don't remember who asked this of me, but there's someone who in my question box for a video has asked me for alien romances that don't end in a baby. I do not have enough books to make that video. Just want to let you know. Lots of people who put video suggestions in my box besides people asking for a shelf tour, which is not happening, by the way. Let me just remind everyone. You may ask for it, but it's not happening. Until this channel gets to 50K, we got some work to do. Anyway, I try not to be bitter about it, but nobody listens to me and they ask, and then I'm just like, delete, delete, delete. It's not happening. But the other thing that happens is people ask for oddly specific recs, and I want to give them to you, but I don't have enough. And this one fits that category. So if you would like to read an alien romance that still has breeding kink in it, but no baby happens, because there is still the urge to breed and the copious fluids and the, like, let me stuff you full, but there is no baby that will happen for these two. But yet it was handled very good. Like, Laura isn't necessarily, like, devastated that she can't. She's sad she missed out on her daughter with what she had, but she's not like, oh, my biological clock is all ticked out and I can't have it and I'm sad about it. Like, there isn't this, like, huge depression about not being able to have a baby. She's just like, I was in a dangerous world. A baby wasn't what I wanted. I wasn't with people I wanted to have babies with. Like, that's it. But now I've met this mate, and, like, he's going to expect that, but, like, it's never going to happen. And I liked how that was done. Moving along, I read another book with a snake-type character. I read The Basilisk of Star Manor by Catherine Moon. I've been meaning to get to this one for ages, because this is actually 1.5 in the series, so it comes after A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. And Star Manor is where, at the end of Lady of Rooksgrave Manor, you'll know some crazy stuff went down at the manor. And we had to find a new place to put all of the women after what happened. So they're now at Star Manor, and the basilisk, whose name is Marius, he is kind of asked slash blackmailed by the bad dude, who I can't remember his name, but if you've read it, you know, the one who, like, wants to, like, destroy his competition, which is the Star Manor or Rooksgrave Manor, and he gets asked to kind of go undercover there. And being a basilisk, his stare can turn people to stone. And the madam of the place has said she's found a perfect match for him. And he's like, okay, so I'm gonna have to be blindfolded the whole time. And she's like, just you wait. So there is a new woman who's staying at Star Manor. And the way that it works there is they will take in women who need a safe place, and they are not forced to work. They will be fed and taken care of. If they want to start working, if they want to start fucking the monsters, they can, and she will help them find patrons. So it really is a safe place for women, no matter what. Whether they want to fuck monsters or not, it's a safe place. But we have a heroine who's ready to try, and she's actually blind. And she had been mistreated previously. I won't spoil that or get into it. We don't have to see anything graphically, but we do find out what happened to her. And so she's blind, which means the basilisk can't turn her to stone, because she can't look upon him and be turned to stone. So when they're together, like, he can take off his blindfold with her, which is kind of special. It's kind of special. So yeah, so they end up having their little romance in this, and we see whether Marius is going to betray them all or not. So yeah, this one fits in between the two, and it was originally in an anthology, and then she posted it on her own, and I snagged it, and then I never got around to it. So I decided to squeeze that one in. I gave it 4 stars, and it was a 2.5 on the spice scale. We do have a little bit of magic peen going on, and a little bit of fun things, but nothing too over the top with that one. Then I read Down and Out by Kelly R. Martin, and this is another one that I won't be talking about because this is an exclusive review for my patrons. This was our pick for an office romance, and if you are a patron, you can watch and see whether I think this really fit into the office romance category or not. This was about a man who owns a gym, and Savannah, who is kind of down and out and basically living in her car, and she gets a job being kind of like a cleaner at this gym, and then we go from there. So yeah, I won't tell you anything more about this one because you'll have to sign up if you want to know. Eventually I talk about the books that are for that, but also sometimes I don't, because sometimes I don't like them and they don't come up again. All right, then I read another book that I can't talk too much about because it's the other book from the blog. I'm sorry I'm being this person, okay? I know. But this one I will talk about again after this week, after this vlog has come out, because I did like it, so I'll tell you that. I read A Court of Blood and Bindings. This was the other book that was picked for me. This is by Lisette Marshall. And yeah, this one was a new to me fantasy story. It is fae. It has a heroine who, at the beginning of the story, kind of loses everything. She's already been an outcast to her family and her village, and then she gets kidnapped by the Silent Death, who definitely reminds me of a fae warrior that we've seen a time or two. But I enjoyed that. I know quite a few people gave this series crap for being too much like ACOTAR, because everybody compares it to that. But if you watch my vlog, you'll see my thoughts about those comparisons and if I think it's fair to make the comparisons and whatnot. I did listen to this on audio and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, I'll tell you that. And it was a 2 on the spice scale. And I will be continuing this series. So if you want to know my in-depth thoughts as I was reading it, that vlog will be, if it's already out, it will be connected to this. And if not, watch my page for that video to come up soon. All right, then I read a kind of recent release. It's now been a little bit because I've just been really overwhelmed with releases, so I didn't get to it right away. But this is Possession by A. Anders. And this is the next book in her Kink Camp series, which definitely hard to say that 4 times fast, or 5, whatever amount of times. And this one is actually about a marriage of convenience, who they're both in the entertainment industry, and you have a very damaged hero who, I believe it said he's pansexual, is what it said. So definitely will be with whoever, like he's fine with that. He's very kinky, but he's definitely kept all that hidden. And this marriage of convenience is only supposed to be that, a marriage of convenience between Zion and Twyla. And at the beginning of this book, she has found out that he kind of cheated on her, even though it was only supposed to be a marriage of convenience. It then makes them both look very bad that he even thought about doing this. So it does start off with some other woman drama, but this other woman drama kind of pushes them to both share their feelings that, like, this isn't just a marriage of convenience to me, I want it to be more. And so Twyla ends up at Kink Camp as well, because she knows this is a place that he goes. She didn't know fully that it's Kink Camp. And once she gets there, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so into this stuff and I've never been able to experience it. So Twyla just goes about making herself familiar with people there, wanting to test things out. And Zion immediately, his possession comes out and he's like, if she's going to be testing these things out, I have to be involved. And so he's like, you can try out what you want, but I'm going to do it with you. And if that had really been all that this was, I would have liked this story much more than I did. A lot of issues that I had is that this one was very long. This was 440 pages, and there was a lot of extra characters in this story, and not just when it was for the fun times. I can tell, you know, that A. Anders is trying to build up the, like, supporting cast to this, but it was too much for me. Like, it literally was too much how much other people were involved. I was bored with them. I didn't care about some of these other characters. and I was skimming a lot. I do love the way that like kink is looked at in this. I mean, that's why at the end of the day I will continue this series, because I like when other kinds of kink get brought into stories besides just, you know, impact play and bondage and like, you know, commanding around. Like I love seeing different things brought in. So yeah, there was exhibitionism, breeding kink, there was a sharing scene, like a setup kidnap scene. I love how it was set up at the camp, like how they do it. I loved that about the primal play in the first one too, how it was like, there's signs that go up and like, hey, someone's doing a primal scene in this area. And there literally are like guards who watch on, who are listening for the safe word in case people get too into it. They do check-ins. And the way that it's written, it shows how that can still be super sexy and how there can be negotiations that happen even in the middle of something. Like they started a scene and she's getting a little too overwhelmed. So she's like, I need us to use, like, I like that you are still like degrading me. You can call me the names, but I'm feeling too separated from you with a blindfold on. Like it's making it feel too real. And so he's like, okay, cool. We take it off. And then they go back into stuff. And I loved how that happened, because a lot of times when I'm reading like a dark romance, there is no option for a safe word and stuff. So even that really sexy dark things are being explored, it doesn't feel safe, which is what can make it dark and make it fun. But when you read one where we are following kink and we're following the rules, there is that safety and there's room for it to be very sexy, because everyone is involved in it and it's fun. And so even when there's someone else involved in this scene, it made it very hot, because it's very clear like who's in charge, and that this other person being brought in is there because they're there to have fun, but also because they want everyone to have even more fun. And I like that. So that's, again, like that's why I'll continue this series, even though I didn't like all these extra stuff added in. I didn't like that we needed to touch on every single aspect of kink in this one. I was like, just pick what you want and go, because then it feels kind of over bloated for me. So yeah. That's where I was at. I gave this 3.5 stars. It's a 4.5 on the spice scale. There is a lot going on. And then the only trigger warning, like I said, is there is some other woman drama that starts the book off. But it's not even it's not like it was a relationship or a thing. It was something else. So then I did read the bonus kind of novella short that came after, which is called Where You Belong. And I did count it as its own thing, because it was like 50 pages. And I was like, I would count a novella as 50 pages. So when you get to the end of Possession, you can download this extra bit here. And this one is, I think it's like some months or a year later, and they're acting out basically like a gangbang scene for their just for a party or whatever. And that was really hot. And one of the things someone brought up in a review, and I kind of like this, is that the hero doesn't have the biggest dick in every scene. And he's okay with that because he likes dick too. So he's like, wow, this is really great seeing my girl get it from this. Not everyone's gonna love that. Okay, I understand. But in the context of this story, when they're just to have fun, in a way, it reminds me of the Wicked Villain series by Katie Roberts. She had scenes, where we share, and I'm never worried about the couple for the sharing, because there are no feelings. It's that partner allowing there to be other people involved because it pleases their other partner. That's what's happening. So then I read Love Me Today by A.L. Jackson. Now, this book comes out at the end of the month, so I don't want to spoil anything, but I got an audio arc for this one from Valentine PR, so thank you so much, Valentine PR. You're the best. Even though I missed out on some things like JT Geisinger, which hurt me, I got an audio arc, which is great because I actually had more time to fit in that, aka when I'm working on cute little animal friends, to listen to audiobooks, So this one is for her new series, Time River. This cover. A.L. Jackson is someone I still appreciate so much because she does do multiple covers for all of her books continuously. And I love that because she has some of the best model covers. They're so beautiful. And if she stopped doing them, I would just cry in a puddle. Okay, it's gorgeous. So this one is going to hit a lot of layers that people like. And it worked for me. It really, really did. I have spoken previously about how some of her, specifically the most recent series, I have it right behind me over there, the words on the page are so lyrical and purple that I can get lost in the story. And that specifically would happen when I was reading it with my eyes. If I would listen to it, these books are really made to be performed by a narrator. They really are, because specifically like Joe Arden was the one doing this one, and the way that he just works with the words to make it sound how it is, it sounds, you know, like the lyrical version that we want, you know, the way that alliteration of the words is used, it flows so beautifully and it's great. And the way that Love Me Today worked, I liked it the best of all of hers I've read. You know, not even speaking about the story, how it was performed and how I heard it, because it had just a bit of that. Like moments when the hero is very emotional or something dramatic was happening, he really is getting in to like the beat of it, and it just keeps you turning the page or listening to the next bit. And so I loved that. I really, like, I want to say that for this one, it was just the right amount, because it wasn't all the time. Whereas in previous books of hers that I've read, again, specifically that series, it was like every page just looked like a poem. And that's not a way that I love to read. It's just not. For some people, it's going to make you obsessed. For me, I'm still there for like the narrative, not the like lyrical part of this. So with that mixed together, where it's usually only the hero's point of view, that it felt like that. And also it only happened in times where we're like building the intensity of a part, like sometimes for a love scene or for the suspense, because her books do have suspense elements in it. I love that. Now, I've talked about that a lot. What is this story about? Let me tell you that. Sorry. This story is about, it's a single dad, but it's actually a single guardian. I'll just tell you that. It's a single guardian. He's an uncle. And him and his little girl, his little niece, have moved to where their cousins live on this ranch that he owns. He usually does his work in the big city. He definitely has been involved in some shady business practices. So this series is about cousins. I think there's like, I don't know if I think they're all cousins from like different siblings, but I think there's also a sibling pair too. I'm not sure what the family tree is yet for them, but he's one of the cousins, and these guys, they all lived on the ranch. Of course, you have like the typical, like one of them was in the military, one of them's a cop, one of them's going to start his own business, and this guy already owns a business. He's a big, you know, he's like a billionaire, but he's taking his little girl out of the city. He's very kind of like paranoid because of the suspense elements, which I won't spoil, but part of the suspense elements has to do with why his sister is gone and why he has his niece. And then how we meet our heroine, which it does have a meet cute that we've seen a few times before, but that's all right. We like it, where she has a job interview to be a horse trainer and like a riding lessons teacher for this little girl. And of course, before she makes it out to the ranch to interview, she and him have a bit of a fender bender. What's her name? Her name is Paisley, and his name is Caleb. So Paisley and Caleb have a bit of a run-in, of course, beforehand, which sets them off to a bad start. But again, as usual in this setup, she meets the little girl, and the little girl likes her right away. So they need to figure out their stuff so that she can be this trainer for this little girl. This also ends up being kind of a nanny situation, because the person he has to be the nanny is not great. She's not a good person to be watching this little girl, who does have some, I don't know if we would call it neurodivergence. Like, I don't know if that's where we go, but she is maybe like behind in her learning a little bit because of some trauma she's been through. So the horse and Paisley are both very good for her, and that was beautiful to see. So yeah, so that's the setup that we have. Caleb is definitely very distrustful. He is a lot of an asshole for a certain part of this. He is a bit more of a grump than I would normally like, but why it worked for me is that he's very afraid. Like, it comes across in his, like, how fearful he is for his niece and for the demons that are chasing them. And so some of his overreaction, like, it worked for me. He's very protective. But Paisley also does not take shit. She is like, no, no, no. She reminded me of Willa a little bit. I'm not trying to make the comparisons for you, but I mean that attitude of like, I don't need this job that bad. You won't treat me that way. I know what I'm worth. Like, that's what she has going on. So we love that. We love that. She also has a great girl gang around her, so nobody's going to put up with that stuff. there was great setup for like future characters in this. So this was a great beginning to a series for me, and I now am very much looking forward to future books in this. So I gave this one 4.5 stars. The third act reaction, we won't say comp, but we'll say reaction, was a bit over the top, but at the same time I knew this hero was gonna react that way because of how he was set up, and I just liked it. Also very sexy, lots of good bossiness around, toys used, some praise, dirty talk, he's tattooed. I love it. He has that vibe of like him coming into this ranch. He's very much like badass businessman, like wears a suit, has the tattoos. He almost feels like mafia vibes, and watching him slowly more fit into the cowboy side of it is great. All right. Like I could picture it of him slowly wearing his like Levi's instead of, you know, Ralph Lauren or whatever. I don't know. I liked that. So good stuff. Very sexy, very fun. I can't wait to read more, and yeah, it was great. I did this one basically in one sitting. It was delightful. All right, next I read Hard Pass, and this was one of the things I meant to announce at the beginning, but I was taking too long with announcements. Sarah Nay is going to be on my channel next Sunday at 6 p.m. Here's the beautiful graphic for that we have created. Sarah Nay is an author that I read a few years back. And at the time she had the Jock Rowe series and the How to Date a Douchebag series. And I really loved those books. I binged those way back when they were a part of Audible Escape, when that was a thing. But I hadn't read much of her since then because I had kind of moved on from like the new adult sports romances. I wasn't into those as much anymore. But she has a new book coming out called How to Win a Girl. And she is going to be on for an author hangout. So some of her books are on AnyPlay. A couple of them are on Audible. Plus there's only one series that's on there, but I think all of hers are in KU. And so I am diving into a few of her books to prepare for this. So I read Hard Pass, which is part of a series where I had read one of the books in it. Now, I wasn't as huge a fan of that one, but Hard Pass was pretty cute. And I liked it specifically for some of the issues the hero had. So this hero has some anxiety and like honestly, like some social anxiety for sure. He's a baseball player. He's a very high paid baseball player, but he's very like people shy, and so that side of it is difficult. But he has something he loves. He loves collecting baseball cards. That's what he really likes to use his money for. And our heroine, Miranda, has been left her grandfather's baseball card collection, and she knows that some of them are very valuable. So her grandfather had left her these because it's all that he had to give her. You know, he didn't have lots of money to leave her, but he wanted her to be able to pursue her dreams. So this isn't her like betraying her grandfather in selling these cards, but she doesn't want to make sure they go to someone who really will love them, because she has a dream of opening a design studio, and she has these cards that she needs to turn into money. And so her and Noah end up messaging back and forth about selling this card, but he's very nervous about going in public, so he asks his friend Buzz to go and do the transaction for him. Buzz is a big player and kind of a douchebag, and so he like kind of fucks this up. So they sell the one card and he wants to buy more from her, but she's like, I don't know if I want my cards to go to you. You were kind of a jerk. Like she messages in that. She's like, you were kind of a jerk and I don't feel good about all my grandpa's cards going to you. So Noah's like, oh my God, Buzz, what did you do? But he's also a little too chicken to just introduce himself to her. And then things escalate even further when she's out with her friends at a bar and she sees the guy that she'd met, who of course is Buzz. It's not Noah, but Noah is there with Buzz. And her friends are like, you have to introduce us to the sports guys. And she's like, fine. So being a good friend, she goes over to make the intro, and Buzz is a total like douche to her. But Noah and her kind of talk, and that was kind of Buzz's plan, is he wanted these two to talk. But yeah, so it goes a little bit awkward from there, and it's just very difficult. It was really interesting to read a hero who is not smooth at all, and he may have all this money and fame, but he doesn't know how to handle it, and he hasn't had any practice dealing with the fame that comes with it because he just hides. And so it's made the media ferocious to get photos of him, even more so if he would let himself be seen. So when he finally does work up the balls to ask her out, it makes their first date very interesting, we'll say. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. It was a fun, quick read. This one was a really quick one. And it was a 2 on the spice scale. And again, it wasn't perfect, but I liked the representation in the hero, that he wasn't some player. There are other ways to be a douche that don't involve being a player. So there's that. All right, finally, we have the last book that I read, which was highly anticipated by many, and one that I was pretty nervous to pick up. And that is Dangerous Innocence by Cora Riley. So this is the first book in her 5-Leaf Clover series. There will be 5 books in this series. And this one is about Aslan, who lives in Ireland. And I've been told, so let me get this out of the way. This one takes place in New York quite a bit, which I'll explain. But the rest of them are supposed to take place in Ireland. So this is going to be an Ireland set series, which is great. But Lorcan, he's running some of the New York business while the rest of his family, his older brother, runs the business in Ireland, which I did get confused between the oldest brother and the dad, because the dad is still alive, but he's retired, because he retired after he lost his wife. He just didn't have a heart to continue. So the dad is still there, but he's not the boss. He definitely still gives advice to his kids and is a very loving father for being a mafia man. Like, let me just say that. He's a really loving dad, and I appreciated that a lot, we'll say. But then Baylor, I believe, is the oldest brother, and so I was confused. And when I was doing my vlog for my patrons, because I was reading this, I did call the older brother the dad at one point. So if you watch that, I'm sorry. I was confused. Because in some mafia books, the men do just call their dad by their name because they dislike them so much. But Baylor is the oldest brother, and he's in Ireland. But we have Lorcan, and he's running stuff in New York. So we have Aslan, who is 19 years old, and her sister Imogen has just disappeared. She had went to New York to become a model, and she dropped off communication. And this is distressing for 2 reasons. Number 1, she is her sister, and so she's worried about her. And number 2, Aslan and her mother have been taking care of her nephew basically since he was born. And so Aslan wants to know what's happened. Imogen has basically abandoned her son, and so it's not so much that's oh, we need her here to take care of him, but it is distressing. And so Aslan finds out that her sister may have gotten involved in some tough things, and so she decides to go to New York to find her. And so she has an uncle over there who is her mom's sibling, and he is a priest for the mafia over there, but he's still very pious and a bit of a dick for being the mafia's confessor. I'm you're really judgy for forgiving people for murdering people all the time. I'm just saying. Okay, all right. But she goes over there. She actually gets introduced to Lorcan at church, but then she finds out that her sister is looking for a sponsor, which basically means finding a rich guy to help sponsor her in being modeling and being his mistress. And her sister is into that. But Aslan is I need to lay eyes on my sister. I need to hear it from her. I need to know what's going on. And everyone is kind of telling her, your sister doesn't want to be found. And she's are people just telling me that, or what's going on? So she goes to this place called the Doom Loop, which is where people can go to find a sponsor. And she ends up accidentally getting auctioned off to men there, and she gets bought by Lorcan, and he does get a little pushy with her because he's what are you doing here, you innocent little flower? What are you doing here? He doesn't call her a flower. I said that. But there was this really beautiful line of his, and I actually quoted this one. Let's see if I can remember it, where he says, she reminded him of Ireland. She reminded him of home, and he wanted her. He didn't just want her body. He wanted her innocence and her smile, and he wanted her for himself. And I really liked seeing that about him, that he does instantly want her. He thinks she's beautiful, and he's been looking for a wife anyway. So he uses this leverage he has because she could have been bought by someone really bad. He does elicit some sexual favors from her, but he doesn't take her virginity, but he does kind of exert his power. He is not a perfect man. There is a lot of dubious consent that happens in this book, so there's that. But it helps because even though Aslan is innocent, and she doesn't have a choice. She's still a very strong character, I will say that. And she didn't remind me of, let's say, like Arya or some people back in the day, you know what I mean? But I don't want to make the comparisons. Let this be free. Let this be new. We're not looking to make connections between things, even though for some of us, like, we will notice those things. So anyway, he then goes to her grandfather and is like, or not grandfather, her uncle, and like, I'm going to make her marry me. And he basically threatens her into it. So this is a forced marriage. And so within 2 weeks, she finds herself married to him. And he agrees to help her find her sister, but she's going to be his wife and the mother to his kids. And she's going to have sex with him whenever he wants. And she's going to like it. And she does like it quite a bit. And again, this book is one of her, like, sexiest. And I'm not saying sexiest for, like, it doesn't have the kinkiest stuff going on. It does have some stuff that happened in church, so be prepared for that, my sweet Catholic friends. Be prepared for that. But also, there's something about Lorcan that I really liked. So let's get into more of the details, like what I liked. I liked Lorcan. He's not necessarily like the newest book boyfriend for me, but he had this controlledness in him. He wasn't just completely ruled by his urges. He also had a tender side that I liked a lot. Like, I did. I read a lot of Mafia, specifically recently, where the dude has to be the most brutal, vicious, awful, horrible guy and sexy for it to work. And he genuinely, like, honestly, he genuinely is looking for a wife and a mother of his kids, and he promises to be faithful. He didn't have a string of mistresses he had to give up. He isn't the most promiscuous guy. And so he honestly is offering her a good marriage. Like, really, as good as it can be for having started with coercion. He is trying to help her find out stuff. He was working for me. He was working for me. And so I genuinely like Lorcan, and he's one of the biggest pluses in this. I also was genuinely enjoying Aslan, and I liked her level of fight, but also her willingness to bend and be coerced to a certain degree to help find her sister. So yeah, I really enjoyed those things. And I'm actually not going to go into a lot of the nitpicks because I don't want to put them into anyone else's mind. The thing that kept this from being a full 5 stars for me is the third act. I was talking with Mary from More to Mary while we were both reading this. And for me, where the third act conflict comes in, it comes in very quickly. It gets dealt with very quickly. And then we're over it very quickly. And there's a specific thing, a very specific thing. And if you end up having read this, I'd love to know if you noticed this too. But if this thing had been done in the end of the first act, instead of in the third act, like if we had laid the seeds for it at 30%, and then let some time pass and let everything else that's happening happen, and then the consequences came in the third act, I would buy this book all the way. Like, I'm at 80% with it. I would have been at 100% with it, literally, if this had been set up here. Instead of it being set up, exposed, and dealt with all here. It needed a better setup. But I still was pleasantly surprised with this. Other people feel different. Some people just completely overcore Riley, and that's totally your prerogative. This isn't her previous books. This is fresh. This is new. I liked the couple. I liked how it went, even though Aslan, like, made me really pissed. I liked how the resolution happened, and at the end of the day, I liked Lorcan, and heroes go a long way in a story for me. Like, I'm obsessed with heroes. It's what I want. And there's also the little nephew in here. Loved him. It was great. And like I said, I love the family that's being set up. The next book is supposed to be the sisters. That's what we're told at the end of this. So Imogen, I won't say anything about what's going on with her or where she ended up, but I'm interested to see a redemption arc because I had some great dislike for Imogen by the end of this and the things that other people went through for her. And I'm interested to see if Imogen can be redeemed in my eyes. I would like to see how I feel about her at the end. So there you go. It was a pleasant surprise for me. I'm not trying to set expectations high. I'm telling y'all, I liked this because I had no expectation at all, as I have in the last 2 books of hers. I'm not expecting it to blow me away. I'm not expecting it to be a new favorite. I'm just going in with, what is this book? Let's read it. So please don't let me hype your expectations for you. I'm just telling you I think the book is worth it. That's my opinion. I'm not telling you this is a 5-star worth book. I'm just telling you I didn't hate it. So just take that for what it will. But I gave this 4.5 stars because I went in with like, what is this? And it was a 4 on the spice scale. It had degradation and praise, dubious consent. There is some backdoor play, not like full anything, but there's some good stuff in there. There's exhibitionism, and there is sex in a church. So be prepared for that. And then for some trigger warnings, there is like dangerous situation. I don't know another way to say them without specific spoilers, but no, like, I mean, the dubious consent and some coercive stuff is definitely good to know, because some people are calling that assault, which it is, but I'm reading a dark romance, and I don't mind if a man is pushy with his woman in a dark romance. So just remember that. This is still a dark romance. And after all that, we're going to wrap up this week. So thank you so much if you made it all the way to the end. Give me a 4-leaf clover, because I'm feeling it, okay? I'm feeling the Irishness. I've read a lot of Irish romance recently, honestly, and it's been great. So thank you so much for watching this video. Of course, make sure to check out my Patreon and my channel memberships if you'd like to support what I do here. Make sure to check out that vlog that's going up in a couple days if you want the more details on those books. And I'll see you next time. Bye.